Hey, everybody, welcome back to the 30 Minutes of Fame podcast. Today, I have a very special guest who sometimes life comes around full circle. We had a little chat in 2012. We'll get to that in a little bit, but Mr. Jebb Fink, who if you're from Canada, you've seen tons of times. I've seen at the Laugh Shop, a comedian, morning show host, cook, and most surprisingly, straight out of Compton.
Yeah, that's my favorite intro in California. Because you're beyond nobody can see you, and then born and raised in Compton, California, and then I walk out and they're like, "What?" And it's I'm 67. It was a different city then. People don't really get that sometimes, I don't think, but yeah, it's got a long history.
So, yeah, when you think Compton, and you could have been the first big white rapper out of Compton. So how do
Well,
we go from
I have no rhythm and I can't sing, but it wouldn't probably stop me from trying.
this day and age, anyone can make a song and put it on an app, so you don't.
Oh yeah, I mean, you mentioned that you have a daughter. My daughter, I took to her a couple of concerts, and I took her to Avril Lavigne, and opening was Gob and Swollen Members, which I had to explain to her why she couldn't have their T-shirts, and brutally honest. And then I took her to see Alice Cooper, and she was like, "Oh my God, he's so good." I said, "Yeah, because his band's chock full of musicians,
Hmm.
and none of it. It's like, no, all of your bands are auto-tuned. None of them can play. None of them can sing. None of them." And it was kind of that era, and I think they've gotten back to where even the young-ish, we'll call them stars, have to be able to sing because you know they make all their money doing concerts. The songwriters make all the money on the recordings,
Yeah,
which is fair.
that's funny.
But yeah, it's a
My
it's a different world.
my first concert was Alice Cooper and Motorhead. I was in grade 7, so I was started off right.
Nice.
But speaking of brutally honest, this is Jebb's new book, just released on Amazon. And one thing I noticed this morning when I was just having a look, it's a number one bestseller in television biographies, ranked higher than the
When
Fonz and Michael J. Fox on there.
No, that's not fair.
No, I saw Henry Winkler. I'm like, oh my God, the Fonz.
I mean, I'll take it. That'll probably show up in print somewhere. And you know what? We have a same publisher, and Dan sent me the thing, and I'm at the market, and I'm working all day, and I never got to look at it. So that's very cool. Thanks for telling me that.
You know what's funny when Dan, who is our publisher, those don't know from Above River Books, when he put out my second one, and in the first week, I never track numbers. I track impact, and I don't care if if my book sells 10 or 100, but I've had a few people reach out to me that went through the exact same thing as me, and that's to me
Wow.
the value. But this book, if you don't mind, I just want to read a little bit of the forward here because I've read a lot of books in my time, and this first paragraph hit me like a ton of freaking bricks. So I'm gonna try and read this in the morning light here, but I'd like to dedicate this book to my 4 children, 11 grandchildren, and 3 great grandchildren, all of whom had an absent father, grandfather, and great grandfather for much of their life as I selfishly chased career success. Man, that hit me. Hit me hard. I hadn't even started the book and I'm already got a big lump in my throat, and it's just, what's that like for you to read that back or hear that back?
Really upsetting. You know, it's I mean, it's the truth. and nothing kicks you in the nards harder than that, you know. But I mean, I did led a very selfish life, you know, and thought I should admit to that.
Well, that's the first thing that hit me. And reading this whole book, it's just real and it's raw. And as someone that a lot of my viewers know, I was an alcoholic for almost 28 years from PTSD and drinking. And there's a lot of stuff in here that hit me. This little powerful book, which I said to Dan yesterday when we held it up, that it looks like, remember those old playbill things you get before a Broadway
Yeah,
show?
yeah.
That's what I first thought when I looked at this. Oh, it's like a playbill, and there's a little intermission here with some pictures. But yeah, it's gonna help a lot of people, and
Well, I hope so.
I admire you just for putting the start like that. Um, and obviously it's something hearing back. I don't know if you've read that or read it back or heard someone else read it back, but you can tell that's
Well, you know, and my stand-up show was like brutally honest, and I've had people come up and go, "Well, that really upset me." Good, you know. I didn't come up here to pat you on the back, and you know, I've um, it's really funny because I've kind of two different careers. When I did corporate shows, I did the shows for the corporation. I did a clean show. I did a nice show, and they paid me very, very well to do that. Uh, at the club, I do whatever I want, and I think people sometimes get a bit shocked by it. And are you okay with a bit of language on this?
Oh yeah, I've had a lot of sailor mounts on here and former veterans. There's no filter, so you
Okay,
say
so
whatever you need to.
I had a little old lady come up to when I was still on the morning show. She comes up to me after a show at the club and she said, "You know, I watch you every morning." And she said, "It's very different, the live show." I said, "Yeah." And she said, "I notice on TV you never say fuck." I said, "You know what? I get up at 3 in the morning to go to work. Trust me, I'm thinking fuck." And she laughed. She said, "No, it's okay. You didn't invent that word." I said, "No, but I use it well." And that's the important part, you know. But it's neat to see people that know me for one part of my life and not the other. And I did. It was like I think it was exactly on the 1 year anniversary of getting out of Betty Ford. I hosted the AMPI Awards, the Alberta Motion Picture Awards. So tons of people in the room that I knew. And I said, you know, it's my 1 year anniversary from getting out of Betty Ford. Room goes quiet. And then finally one guy goes, "Oh," like it dawned on him what was wrong with me. You know, not a clue. And it's like, I have no idea how you could not know how hammered I was all the time. And it was a daily occurrence. And especially towards the end. And towards the end, it just gets uglier and uglier. That's the problem. And if you could see where you're going to end up from where you start, you wouldn't do it. But I mean, I think a lot of addicts are like this. I just never thought of the end of it. You know what I mean? And I watched my dad do it. So, you know, it's not like I didn't have the evidence, but yet I still did it. You know, it's really funny because I had among my numerous therapists, I had one that I said, you know, my wife just doesn't understand how I can't just, you know, just stop.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Tell her this. Tell her, start having sex. And just before you climax, stop." And she said, "Roughly, how badly you want to continue and have that climax is an addict's uh, desire.
Wow.
I thought that it's pretty close.
That,
Actually, maybe for addicts, it might be a little stronger. But, it's funny what, uh, when you're on TV, what people think of you. And I went in for a stress test one time for my heart. And this girl was, oh, I'm so excited that you're here. I watched you on TV when I was a little girl all the time. And when I saw your name, I said, oh, let me take care of him. And then she's got to ask for my history, of alcohol, smoking. And, she said smoking. I said, no, I never smoked. And then I listed off not cigarettes, but other things I had smoked. And you could just see her little face just getting sadder and sadder when it dawned on her, well, this guy isn't who I thought he was at all. And it's like, you want to just go to him? No, it's TV. It's all fucking fake. Like, get a grip. I'm doing my job on television, but it's definitely not my real life.
one thing you mentioned is about hanging around with people, and one thing I've noticed most, I've been sober. Well, I don't call. I've had like 4 beer in 3 years, but I haven't been drunk, and that's what I consider myself as sober. I haven't been
Yeah,
drunk in 3 years and 2 months, but I've lost a lot of friends since then. People don't want anything to do with me anymore.
right.
I remember you mentioned Claire's home in your book. That's where I am, so that the center you'd went to here is just down the road from me. But right across the street is an RV park, and he called me up, an old drinking buddy. He's
Yeah.
like, "Oh man, I'm here in town from Calgary. Just come for just 1 beer." And I could hear everybody wasted in the background, and I'm like, "No, man." And
No such thing.
I haven't talked to him since. The people that you don't drink anymore, they don't want anything to do with you. So, do you find your circle of friends now that you're sober is awfully lot smaller?
Well, at the most, I've since the book came out, I've gotten stuff on Facebook from old friends. And some of them, I had tried many different times to quit and then went to Betty Ford, and then that finally took. And uh, lots of them I just had never heard from again, and the name comes from a guy that came to see me at the market. And I said, well, guy, I didn't know if I'd ever see you again. And he said, well, I just got out. I was like, oh, yeah. Okay. I said, well, I hadn't heard that. And he said that he had heard when he was in that I'd gotten sober. And his first reaction was, no way. And so when he got out, he came to see me. He said, I just used sober. I had to see what that looked like. And he had really curtailed everything he was doing. And we were talking at the end of it. He said, you might be sober. You're still fucking nuts. I was like, yep. But yeah, I lost all my friends. And so I have a business at the Crossroads Market in Calgary. And through the market, I've met a lot of really good, they're customer/friends, and they're my social life now. They come and visit me every weekend, and a lot of them will sit and talk for a half hour or an hour. And I do realize it's a business, and I do have to make money, but uh, the social part of it's the best for me. And fortunately, the funny thing when I started, it's a food business. So when people would buy food from me, and they would come back and go, that lasagna was like really good. And I said, well, yeah, I can cook. Well, no, we just thought you were really, really funny. And I said, people can do two things. It's you can be a really good cook and be really funny. And Yeah, it's funny how people pigeonhole you. So probably your old friends, you were who you were, but now you're not him anymore. So it's like, and I mean, I'm definitely not as much fun to hang around as I used to be. But then again, odds are I'll wake up the next morning. So
I found in this book there's a lot about memory gaps as well, and that hit me hard because every day I'll go and pull up Facebook memories to see how much stupid shit comes up, and there's so much stuff I don't remember. Nights at pubs where I was, my goodness, there's stuff that I would get canceled so fast for now. Like go to shoes on my knees with my arms in like a little thing from the
yeah,
Wizard of
yeah.
Oz, singing karaoke and stuff. And I've got it all set to private, so only I can see it. But when people come up and tell you something that you have no recollection of, what's that? Is it embarrassing or is it like you're proud of it because you don't
Oh no, let me tell you. Yeah, you don't. It's hard because I think you know. I know I certainly do have a way different sense of humor than most people. But I had a podcast for a while that was named Sober Not Sane, and there were at least three people that I consider really good friends. And they would say, "Do you remember how we met?" And I'd go, "Nope," and literally, not even going to try. And one of them is an amazing photographer, but I have always, since I've been sober, thought of him as this amazing photographer. And he said, "Well, we met on the show." And I said, "On the morning show." And he said, "Yeah, you were booking the bands at the time, and you booked my band to be on the show." And I said, "Oh, you were in a band?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he said, "We played, and you were the only person that came over and told us how great we were and everything." I went, "Wow, yeah, no, I don't remember that." I said, "But I was probably loaded." And he goes, "It was 6 in the morning." I said, "Yep."
Yeah.
you know and you wake up with a wee bit of a hangover and you need to go be happy, you're going to have to do something. People, I think people that drink casually just don't understand that mentality. And there was a guy in Betty Ford. I mean, everything's supposed to be on the hush hush, so definitely no names or anything, but he was a surgeon. And I mean, there were surgeons, my roommate was a doctor, there were lawyers, judges, I mean, it covers the gambit, right? And nobody's immune because of their station to doing this. And it was his second or third time in, and he said, "This is it. If I don't get my shit together, they're going to pull my medical license." And he was an oral surgeon. He was getting ready to do surgery on this guy, and he said he said, "So I was huffing on the anesthesia." And I said, "Okay, what was the plan?" He goes, I don't know." "No, no, you had a plan. We don't do things without a plan. There was a reason you did that." And he said, "I looked down and my hands were shaking so bad. I thought, you know what? If I don't get this calmed down, I'm going to kill this guy."
Mm.
And he said, "I thought, oh, well, I'll use some of the anesthesia and that'll calm me down." I said, "Well, see, you had a plan. It was a shitty plan. It was a stupid plan, but you had a plan." And that's really how he thought. He thought, "Well, I'll just do this and then I'll be able to get through the surgery." And I think he had told me that the team was already in the room when he started doing, like, he just did it right in front of them. And that was kind of okay. You're gonna get a little bit of a break and go back to rehab.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, at least um, at least as a stand-up or a guy on TV, I'm not gonna kill anybody unless I would have done it in my car. Um, but I mean, I never got a DUI, but there were many times I should not have been driving. You know.
And I remember
But
one time just waking up in Kenmore, which is about an hour. Well, you obviously know where Kenmore is, but I woke up in Kenmore after a night out in Calgary. I had no idea how I got there in an empty apartment with a for sale sign on it, and ended up with a $200 cab ride home. That was one of my first big wake up calls.
somebody probably gave you a ride.
I would think so. I mean, my clothes were all still on. That's all I was concerned about. Um, how different is it writing for shows? Like, how has your comedy act changed at all with everything being so sensitive now, or is it just like, do you, how different is it
And
being?
so no, I don't mind, I don't mind offending anyone. And I think it's in the book that, I paid a table to leave because they didn't like my show.
Yeah,
And it's like, well, here, take your money and go home. I don't care if you like me. And that's the thing, if you, to me, in stand up, if you go up there and all you're worried about is whether everybody's going to love you, you're
yeah,
not going to be effective, you know, and your stories aren't going to ring true, and you're going to sound pandering. And uh, it's just, to me, not funny.
I love it, man. That's kind of similar to doing these shows. I have to remember after my first couple, someone said they'd rather listen to dental office music than watch my show or like sounds of a dental office. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, good luck with that root canal. Go fuck yourself. Um,
Yeah. Well, you can't care what they thought,
no,
you know, and I mean, for us, this kind of thing is cathartic.
yeah,
Like it helps you. I think it helps you get better. And uh, I had a lady tell me after a show, she said, "You're so funny. It's too bad it all comes from pain." I
mm,
said, "All comedy comes from pain. That's what makes it funny."
I love it.
Uh, Kipadata, who was an old comic who's gone now, but he uh, he used to say, he said, "I'll always remember what Nana Adata told me when I was a little boy. It's okay to laugh at somebody when they get hurt, as long as you know it's not permanent damage and it fucking hurt a lot."
You know, my one of my biggest wake up calls doing these episodes, I had a miss. She was Miss Texas, like a Miss America pageant queen, and
Right.
who had an addiction, almost took her own life by running out to the middle of the highway. And that was you never know what people are going through. Like, so just my message to anyone watching this is try not to be a douche. Try to just be nice. Jeb and he doesn't remember. I barely remember, but in 2012, I was on the way to Toronto for a big conference with a military charity, and Jeb is sitting next to me. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. I was half in the bag because I was so nervous about flying. I had drank half a thing of Crown Royal even before I was on the plane. I don't even know how I
Right.
got through security. So Jeb's got all this shit going on his end. Two of us were just two dudes having a chat. I didn't really at that point know about your comedy
And
career.
maybe a chat and a cocktail or two on the plane.
We had a little pile of bottles at the end, and I remember one of us, I won't say who, but one of us got a little mad when they were told that the plane was starting to descend, so alcohol service was cut off, and we
All
were
right. No, was it me or you?
it was none across the section from us, I swear to God. But you never know what people are going through. But if you're watching this, pull up Amazon, have a search. Search Sober Not Sane. Have a read of this book. Whether you're going through shit or not, it might make you more receptive of other people that are. And just to, the thing I found the most is the friends that are always posting positive stuff or funny videos. They're the
Right.
people to check in on first.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, I
Oh,
love it.
I had people that I couldn't believe got a hold of me.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I burned that bridge. I bombed it. I took a bulldozer and filled in the river. Like, I thought there's no way in hell this person would ever reach out, but they do.
I love it. Um, how big of a pet peeve is it when someone comes up to you and they know you're a comedian or they know your history? Like, tell me a joke, say something funny.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you mentioned or not. Have you seen me do stand up?
I've seen you at the last shop. I was very intoxicated, so I'll admit I don't really remember much of it, but I remember laughing a lot and my stomach hurting like I did a sit up after.
Okay, well, it's story humor, so it's not like I don't tell jokes. And I finally, not because of the stand up, but because of being on TV, people would do that and come up and say, "Tell me, joke." Finally, I basically like memorized like 4 jokes that were clean jokes, and I could just tell them that. And really, I decided, well, I can either be an asshole or and tell them to piss off, or I can just tell them a joke and they'll go away. And I thought, well, it's really better to tell them a joke and have them go away than to piss them off and have them tell everybody what a jerk I am, which I can indeed be a jerk, and I know that. And it's really, really funny because that's all they want. They just want to say, that guy told me a joke. I'm sorry, I'm really sniffly this morning too.
That's okay.
The joys of doing a podcast.
Yeah.
So, well, when I had my podcast, Dave Kelly, who was the host of the show that I was on, he came and did the show, and we obviously talked. I think we did like 2 hours. And at one point, he goes, I don't know how to tell you this, but we've all gotten older. I got to go pee. I said, well, go pee. And we left it in. And somebody said to me, so you just didn't cut it out? And I said, well, everybody has to pee.
Yeah.
Like, you thought somehow, well, Dave or Jebb, I bet they never pee. And it's like, no, you know what? We've both gotten older. We got to pee more often. It's just a fact. And it's kind of funny what people think is offensive. What's offensive to one person, you know?
Yeah.
I had one of the jokes that I memorized to tell people was like, literally, my mom was born again evangelical Christian, which explains a bit of the drinking. But she was really, boy, straight arrow. Hated the fact that I was doing stand up. Hated the fact that I cursed a lot. The addiction stuff drove her insane, and uh, so I memorized this one joke, and it was, the rotten kid in church. His parents make him go get baptized, and the minister takes him. And he's in the river, and he puts him in for a little while and pulls him up. And, did you see Jesus? And he said, no, I didn't. And he goes, well, okay. And he puts him under the water for longer and pulls him up. And he said, did you see Jesus? He said, no, I didn't see Jesus. Puts him under for almost a minute, pulls him out. And he said, did you see Jesus? And he said, are you sure this is where he went in? And it's a good joke, and it's really clean. And it does. So that's when, a nice lady asked me to tell her a joke, that's my go-to nice joke.
I love it. I freaking love it. I've got one stupid question I ask at the end of every episode. Um, I'll put all the where to get the book, where to find you at the market, everything in the description. And I'm telling you, I loved it. My girlfriend just got a copy this morning. I'm gonna hand on this copy to someone that I think might be able to use it and just kind of pay it forward that way. Um, I've had some heavy episodes on here. This is just kind of my comic relief at the end of every show. And I've only had one person tell me off and have to cut it out of the show. So I'm bet it's a pretty good average so far. Uh,
See, I'd be
so
happy. I'd be happy with that.
That's like 99%, man. That's I'm batting almost better than half the MLB. So a 100-meter pigeon carrying contest. How many pigeons could you fit in your arm and still have? You can walk. You don't have to run. But how many pigeons would you have in your arms at the end of the 100-meter race?
I would love to say that I would have none because I felt bad for the pigeons and let them go. But I'm very competitive. So I would shoot for five under each arm, like just shoving them in and holding them as tight as I can. And believe it or not, I have a pigeon related story, and it involves a magician. And I was opening for him, and I would go up and do 15 minutes. He would go up and do a half hour, and then I'd go up and do 10 minutes. He'd come back for another half hour. So I said, I'm not splitting my show up. You know, like when I'm done with my show, it's cocktail time. I'm going to do my show, and I'm bringing you on. So the first night that we do it that way, he starts producing the pigeons, and they're all hidden in his suit. And they've been in the suit so long, they're dead.
Oh boy.
So he's holding the pigeons and he's trying to move their heads with his fingers to make it look like they're alive. And I am literally in tears laughing at this. And to him, they're like his pets. And I told him after, I said, why didn't you just tell me? If you told me that's why we were doing the show that way, I would have done it. And he said, well, you seem so adamant. I was like, holy crap. There, the little truth would have gone a long ways. But I can still picture him up there holding these little dead pigeons. And then he just set him. The best was he kind of put him in the little cage. And of course, they can't sit on the thing. And then they would fall into the trap door and disappear. So it was like, from a train wreck comedy point of view, it was absolute hilarity to me. And I love those kind of things happening. That's the best when weird shit happens on stage.
I love it. I love it. Well, I want to thank you for coming on with me. If this book, it's going to help a lot of people. I know I can tell it's already affected you just from hearing you talk about it. Um, I'll put the link in there, where to find you at the market, anything you want in there. And if anyone's out that's watching this and you're struggling with anything, addiction, mental health, just go search sober, not sane, or just reach out to somebody, talk to anyone. And yeah, thanks for coming on with me.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. It was really nice to meet you again.
Yeah.
That's the best part, hey, about sobering up. You get to meet people twice.
My second guest was the paramedic that saved my life. And I'm like, took me 29 years to find her. And I'm like, well, we finally got to meet. She's like, well, no, we met that first time. You remember that time I saved your freaking life? I'm like, oh, yeah. Thanks for that clarification.
Well, I had a lady at the market. I kept saying, I know you. Like, I can't remember where. And she goes, don't worry about it. And there were people around. And then finally, there was nobody there. And she goes, yeah, you know me. I was your detox nurse.
Oh, wow.
Oh, well, thank you. Like, what do you say?